Okay, so this is a video on lipids for a general biology class, learning about macromolecules or organic molecules. So let's go ahead and talk generally about this macromolecule and some characteristics. Now, lipids are generally going to be waxy or greasy in consistency. If you've ever eaten French fries and got like that grease on your hands or touched oil of some kind, that those are lipids. And so they have that feeling, I guess, right? And if we have learned about lipids or oils in our life, we tend to kind of understand that they are going to repel water. So if you have ever cooked and you add oil to water, it will float on the surface. Or if you try to wash a greasy pan with just water, they're going to repel each other. It's not going to work. And so lipids tend to repel water. Now, the scientific way to say that is hydrophobic. And phobic is kind of like phobias or fear of. So you can kind of remember that hydrophobic means fear of water or repel water. Now, as you go through high school or go through your science classes, you may also come across the word nonpolar. And nonpolar also generally is going to not mix with water. So sometimes I will use the words nonpolar, sometimes I will use the word hydrophobic, but generally speaking, we are implying that lipids are going to repel water. Now, if we look at some examples of lipids in life, we have that waxy cuticle on the surface of plants that helps prevent water loss. We have oil when we talk about waterproofing in animals. So ducks, for example, they have an oil gland and they spread oil all over their feathers that helps keep them waterproof. For when they're diving underwater, the water just repels off of their feathers. We also have our lipids. We use them as long-term energy storage or insulation. So you can see this harbor seal up in the Arctic has lots of blubber. That blubber is a lipid, and that's going to not only store energy for this animal, but also insulate it and keep it warm and help with thermoregulation. Now, let's go ahead, though, and look at 3 different types of lipids. Now, the majority of lipids on Earth fall into the category of triglycerides. Now, we'll talk more about triglycerides on the next couple slides, but triglycerides, their main function is long-term energy storage. So when we store fat on our bodies, we are storing it in the form of a triglyceride. Now, what elements do you see here in this image, right? So if we think about what elements are lipids made from? Lipids are made from carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, just like carbohydrates. So lipids are made of CHL. Now, while triglycerides are the main type of lipid, there's actually 2 more. All of our cell membranes are mainly composed of a type of lipid called a phospholipid, which again, we'll talk in more detail a few slides from now. So phospholipids are the main component of cell membranes. And so in this picture here, it's the thing that has the circle with 2 little legs coming down. And then our third type of lipid are going to be sterols. Now, sterols, the one you may have heard of is cholesterol. Cholesterol is a lipid. It is a type of sterol. But we also have our steroid-based hormones, such as cortisol. A stress hormone is a steroid hormone, but so are things like testosterone or estrogen. Now, cholesterol, I think in our everyday life, we kind of hear the word and think it's a negative thing, but cholesterol is actually really important in our bodies. One thing it does is helps maintain the fluidity of our cell membranes, and it's also the building block for lipid-based hormones. So those are our 3 types of lipids, and now the rest of the PowerPoint or video is going to go through each function in a little bit more detail. So let's go ahead, though, and start with triglycerides. So if we look at triglycerides, you may see them in 2 different diagrams or styles or images. So both images, though, represent the same thing. So on the left, triglycerides are made out of a glycerol. You can see here this glycerol has 3 carbons and some hydrogens. Now, this glycerol is going to be attached to 3 fatty acids. So a fatty acid is basically a chain of carbons and hydrogens bonded together, also known as a hydrocarbon. So here we have triglycerides, tri meaning 3. So we have a glycerol with 3 fatty acids attached. Now, these fatty acids, earlier when I mentioned that triglycerides triglycerides are long-term energy storage, it's because of all the bonds between these carbons and hydrogens. There's so much energy stored in these fatty acids. When we use fat for energy, it's actually these fatty acids that our mitochondria will help to break apart and then use to harvest energy or ATP for our cells. Now, fatty acids are nonpolar or hydrophobic. They do repel water. Now, there's two kinds of fatty acids. We have saturated and we have unsaturated fatty acids. So if we compare and contrast, you can look at the one on the left. The saturated fatty acids has a very straight chain of hydrogens and carbons, while the unsaturated has at least one bend or kink, and that's due to a double bond in the fatty acid chain. So between two carbons, there's a double bond that causes it to bend. Now here I have a mono unsaturated fatty acid. There's just one double bond. But if there's multiple double bonds, we would call that a polyunsaturated fatty acid. Now both are going to be nonpolar and hydrophobic. Now, another difference between saturated and unsaturated fatty acids is going to be the fact that saturated are going to be solid at room temperature. So this would be things like butter or lard, that is like solid at room temperature. And then your unsaturated fatty acids would be things like olive oil, that's liquid at room temperature. Okay, now our next type of lipid are phospholipids. Now, when we look at phospholipids, we can see this Google image here that I have of a cell membrane. Now, in the cell membrane, you see these blue structures that are like a circle with two lines coming down. That is a phospholipid, and that's the major component of our cell membranes. So, as we look at the structure of a phospholipid, we see that we have this top part. Now, I don't know if you recognize it, but that like CH, that's actually a glycerol. So this is really just a modified triglyceride. We broke off a fatty acid and attached a phosphate group to the top. But anyway, so here we have a phosphate group head that does have a negative charge, and then we have two fatty acid tails. Now, if we recall, fatty acid tails are nonpolar or hydrophobic. So this top part of the phospholipid actually is attracted to water. We say it's hydrophilic, like water-loving, and it's also polar. The bottom part, the two fatty acid tails, are actually nonpolar and hydrophobic. So phospholipids have a part that is hydrophilic and a part that is hydrophobic. So the phosphate group head is attracted to water, while the fatty acid tails repel water. So this will be more important when we get into our unit on cells and discuss cell membranes in more detail. But I just want to remind you that the main component of a cell membrane are lipids, specifically phospholipids, and they have a phosphate group head and two fatty acid tails. And then our third type of lipid is going to be our sterols. Now, one key type of sterol would be our steroid hormones. So, for example, here's the cell membrane and our nuclear envelope. So, for example, testosterone is a steroid-based hormone. And you can see here, it can just diffuse right on into our cell and have an impact on our DNA and our genes. And so our steroid-based hormones are lipid-based, and they're able just to like diffuse or float right into our cells and bring about cell responses or changes within our cells. So sterols generally are going to be our steroid-based hormones, as well as cholesterol, and they're really important as chemical messengers within our body and regulating our gene expression. All right, so hopefully that was helpful for you. Good job.